Hello everybody! So how much of a prankster vibe do you have in you? This is Stef from Samayas and welcome to my channel. In the old days, like way back, we could still pull a prank or two on a colleague easily, like inverting the left and right mouse button. And since security those days wasn't as tight, we can even do that remotely. Oops. So after nearly a quarter of a century writing C# and .NET code, Microsoft has finally given me the weapon which I've been dreaming of. C# 14 just released. And buried deep in the release note is a feature I've been waiting for my entire professional life. The ability to make my fellow developers question their sanity. Before C# 14, everybody knew what a ++ operator and a - operator meant. They were constant in an ever-changing world. Reliable, predictable, and boring. Well, not anymore. So let's dig in. So before C# 14 came out, everybody of course knows how a for loop works, right? Well, here we've got an example. We have a for, and the first parameter is our initialization of our variable, which is an int of I. Our second parameter is our condition, and as long as I is less than 10, whatever is in the for loop will be executed. And then the third parameter is our iterator, and it'll add I, and it calls I++, which everybody knows I is added by 1. Very simple, right? Now of course, this is just dummy code, and in real life, if you would be using a for, you might have your I declared here, or it might also be declared here, for whatever reason, and then you might have some dummy code in between. So, to more approach real-life world, I've added some dummy code. Now let's have a run, and everybody knows the output, right? Of course, it prints I equals to 0 till I equals to 9. Very easy, right? So now we live in the world of C# 14. And as a prankster, I can now have quite a lot of fun. I've created a second sample, and I've slightly modified the code. And as you can see, I still have my for loop, I still initialize my I to 0, then I still have my condition, and I still add 1 to my I. However, if you look more closely, my I will continue as long as it's bigger than -10. Now if you just read this code, you say to yourself, this will never run. It will never get a console write line. And in the old world, you're absolutely right. However, in the new world, you're not. This is perfectly working code. Let's give it a run. And so, what do we see here? We start with I equals 0, and it goes -1, -2, -3, till -9, and then it stops. But wait a minute, my code is written at I should be added by 1. And it's not adding, but it's subtracting by 1. What in the world is going on? And now, I've even created a second variation. This one is easy. I again have a for, I initialize my I, and as long as I is bigger than 10, I add +1. This one is very easy. We end up in an endless loop, because we start by 0 and I is bigger than 10, and so we add 1. Let's give this a run again. And what is happening again? Oh my god. Again, we have I starting at 0 and I ending at -9. Again, we have a for loop which seems to be perfectly readable, but is completely behaving differently. Now of course, with code like this, the prankster in me is having a field day. For those who are paying attention, I deliberately kept all my projects in this solution closed. Also, if you have been paying attention, the first version had an int defined, and the other two, I defined an I-int, which isn't exactly an int. But from afar, you don't notice a difference. And therein lies the magic. And the second version is also the same. Now if I float over it, it says my I-int is a structure. And here's the magic of C# 14. Now I can create a structure, which I can name whatever, I-int or something else, and then I can redefine my plus operator or my minus operator. And I can even redefine my smaller and my bigger. And so my first sample, whenever I call ++, in the end, I'm doing -1. And for my minus operator, I do the other way around. And if I go to my second value, and if I go to my second version, compared to the first version, I just inverted my comparison operators. And so, with those little tricks, you can become a prankster in your team. And so when you thought you knew a for loop and plus plus and minus minus, well, think again. Or, if you look at the detail, the devil is indeed in the details. So why would Microsoft do this? Legitimate use cases, of course, do exist. For large structures, like mathematical vectors or tensors. Avoiding copies during compound operations can significantly reduce garbage collection pressure. Performance-critical code benefits from mutating values in place rather than creating new instances. But, hey guys, let's be honest. The real fun here is in the mischief. Code reviews will never ever be the same. When I++ might secretly mean I minus minus. Just remember, with great power comes great responsibility. And probably some strong-worded messages from your code reviewers. If you guys enjoy this content, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel and hit the bell sign. Or leave a comment down below.